Obi-Wan Kenobi. Obi-Wan. Now that's a show I haven't seen in a long time. What's going on, guys? I'm Chris and welcome back to another video, a tier list ranking of all the Star Wars projects that I've seen that are in canon. So that's the movies, the Skywalker Saga, the spin-offs, and all the TV shows I've seen. Now there are some canon projects that I actually haven't watched, like the Star Wars Resistance show, and there's a few others, but these are all the ones that I felt like including, plus the Clone Wars micro series. Even though it's not canon, I love it so much, I had to throw it on this list. And the reason I'm doing this now is because Obi-Wan Kenobi just wrapped, and I feel like if I don't do this now, I have to wait until like the next Star Wars day. I don't want to do that or wait until May 4th. I wanted to go ahead and make this Star Wars related video, drop the hot takes. I mean, it's been a while since I've ranked these movies. And before I do, make sure to hit that like button, comment down below your favorite Star Wars projects and your ranking of them, and make sure to subscribe to that notification bell so you don't miss out on any future tier list rankings like this one. Without further ado, let's get into this tier list ranking. Alright, so the tiers I have today are the best of the best, great, good, meh, and bad. My typical tiers when I do these ranking videos. Again, these are in no particular order. First up, we've got The Bad Batch. This is a show that I enjoyed. There are moments that I absolutely love. I think the Order 66 time period is one of the most interesting time periods in the Star Wars universe to play around with. I like the camaraderie that forms with this group. The only thing that's kind of a bummer about this is it's 16 episodes long, so there are a lot of those, you know, early Clone Wars type filler throwaway episodes where they go on this random mission. But overall, I do enjoy what the show provides. I'm gonna go good with The Bad Batch. I think that I'm excited for season 2. And again, I just like the brotherhood and just the actual concept of this show, of this squadron of clone troopers who, you know, don't succumb to Order 66, and so they're kind of having to make their way in the galaxy and find, you know, fellow allies. Next, we actually have Solo, A Star Wars Story, a movie that I hated when I first saw it. If you go back and watch my ranking of the Star Wars movies from 2019, it's like dead last for me. I used to hate this. I'd say it's so unnecessary. Why have it? Then I kind of waited a few years and I watched it again this year for the first time since theaters, and I had an absolute blast with it. I think Alden Ehrenreich does his best. I mean, no one's going to replace Harrison Ford, honestly, but he does so great as Han Solo. Donald Glover as Lando absolutely steals the movie, in my opinion. I'm really hoping that we get that Lando show with him because he just kills it in this role. And seeing kind of the origins of Han and just another kind of fun space adventure that's detached from the Skywalker saga makes this movie a blast, because the issue with a lot of the Star Wars movies and the Star Wars projects, honestly, is that they feel so tied to this one through line, this one plot line surrounding the Skywalkers and Tatooine and all these different things. This kind of feels like its own adventure in the Star Wars universe, and we need more projects like this, honestly. I honestly enjoy the hell out of this. This is going at the front of good, right above Bad Batch. I'm tempted to go great with it. I'm not going to do that just compared to the other projects here, but damn, is Solo a fun time, and it's better than a lot of people give it credit for. If you haven't seen it since theaters, I highly suggest you go rewatch this one, because I was one of those people who was cynical on this movie and thought it was very much unnecessary and terrible at times. Went back and rewatched it, had an absolute blast. You guys should check it out if you haven't seen it in a while. Next, we've got Star Wars, aka A New Hope, the one that started it all. I'm going to put it at top of the best, and spoiler alert, it's not going anywhere. That is my favorite Star Wars movie to date, and one of my favorite movies of all time. For many years, I've said it's my favorite movie, and I'm pretty confident in that. I might be readjusting that list soon, but I love this movie. It is a perfect one-off. It kickstarted the galaxy. It is the epitome of a space adventure and the definition of a blockbuster, because you've got the perfect character arcs across the board. The final trench run on the Death Star is epic as hell, and it's something that needs to be seen on the big screen. Unfortunately, I never got to see it on the big screen, so maybe one day I will get to. Darth Vader is the perfect movie villain. Obi-Wan Kenobi is the master. Luke Skywalker, this young hero who goes on a perfect hero's journey. You've got Han Solo, Princess Leia. The iconic characters are there. It's the most quotable Star Wars movie, in my opinion, alongside Revenge of the Sith. And it is just perfection. It's one of the most fast-paced films I've seen. I could throw it on any time of day and be fully entertained by it. This movie deserves more credit, because a lot of people like to put it a little lower in rankings and be like, oh, it's just boring. If someone says A New Hope is boring, I cannot trust them personally. Everyone's allowed to have their opinions, but I can't trust someone who says this movie is boring, because it flies by from start to finish, and it is a perfect film, and it is the reason that we have this whole entire franchise, and the reason I'm doing this tier list ranking is because of this movie. Next, we have Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. One of the more underrated Star Wars movies that a lot of people like to kind of crap on and say, oh, Jar Jar sucks, and this sucks, the dialogue sucks. It's like, yeah, we get it. There's really bad moments in this film, but at the same time, it gives us great storytelling. Qui-Gon Jinn is one of those legendary Jedi. I'd put him in the top 5 Jedi of all time, honestly. Maybe even top 3, honestly. And it has the pod racing scene with the Boon to Eve classic and just the great score, the Duel of the Fates. You've got Darth Maul and this epic third act showdown between him, Obi-Wan, and Qui-Gon. The lore of the Jedi is explored further here. Seeing the Jedi Council. All these things are stuff that we never got to see in the original trilogy, so it was fascinating to explore this new world. We get to see the actual origins of Anakin Skywalker, who would go on to become Darth Vader in this movie, and people like to complain about the kids acting. It's not the greatest, but at the same time, it creates some memorable moments. Now, this is pod racing. I could quote this movie for days. There's always a bigger fish. I adore so many aspects of it that I don't care what anyone says. You could call me crazy in the comments. I think it's a great Star Wars movie, and I'm putting it there right now. Is that my nostalgia? Is that my bias? Maybe. Do I give a damn? Absolutely not, because I honestly do love this movie. Next is The Mandalorian, aka the Star Wars project that arguably revived this franchise, because a lot of people weren't loving the sequels, and The Mandalorian came around and it absolutely blew our socks off. This show is fantastic. I mean, just from season 1 alone, you've introduced a new character in Din Djarin, The Mandalorian, and Grogu, and we all kind of collectively fell in love with them, and their father-son relationship. It's so sweet and heartfelt, but also it's like this badass dude out in the galaxy, not really connected to the Skywalker saga. And then you have the season 2 finale where Luke pulls up one of the best moments in Star Wars, and it's not just unnecessary fan service. It actually fits within the timeline of the story, and it's that Luke Skywalker post Return of the Jedi, pre The Force Awakens, where there's a 30-year gap to play around with, so it feels a lot more authentic for him to show up there. That's still one of my favorite moments in Star Wars. I was so shocked and so overwhelmed with joy when he showed up. I wish that I could just replay that moment in a loop and just look at myself and be like, damn. This show makes you feel that happy. We're 2 seasons through it. It's the best live-action Star Wars show by far, in my opinion. There's a few episodes, maybe 2 or 3 out of 16, that aren't really worth rewatching, but I think that it is fantastic Star Wars storytelling. I'm gonna put it at the top of great. I'm not going best of the best, because I really want to reserve that for true best of the best for this video, because I kind of feel like lately I've been throwing a lot of stuff in best of the best, but it is damn great, and I'm putting it at the top of great because, wow, it blows me away every time, and I can't wait for season 3. Next we have Obi-Wan Kenobi, the new hit show from Disney+. It's only 6 episodes long, unfortunately. My biggest thing with this is it had amazing Star Wars moments, but it overall felt a little dull and was just a decent Star Wars show, which is not something I want to sit here and tell you guys, because this is my most anticipated thing, arguably ever. I love the character of Obi-Wan so much. He's my favorite Jedi of all time. Seeing Ewan back was just so special, and seeing Hayden back in the brief time we got him was also special. But the show's structure really was lacking, because it had pacing issues just like all the other Disney Plus shows, where you've introduced Reva, this new character, and the whole Inquisitor plotline. You've got this Leia storyline going on, so it kind of takes away from the meat of this story, which is Obi-Wan finding out that Anakin is still out there as Darth Vader, and him feeling so torn and conflicted and having to confront these inner demons. They kind of stray away from that, and the moments with Vader and Obi-Wan are absolutely the standouts in the show. It gives us amazing moments where I literally teared up in the finale. But overall, it could have been so much more impactful, in my opinion. A lot of moments in the finale kind of felt like, you know, throwing fan service at the wall. And I'm not one to complain about fan service, but near like the final 10 minutes, it was like, okay, here's this and this and this. We're going to feed you guys and make you happy. But it was like, why weren't these aspects integrated into the actual plot to make it more impactful? Notably, a huge cameo near the end of the final episode could have had a more impactful role. I get into that in my Obi-Wan Kenobi spoiler talk you guys can check out up above. I liked the show. I thought it was all right. I wanted to love this so much. And this hurts. It really does. But I think Obi-Wan Kenobi has to go in meh. I mean, it really does. There are just outstanding moments in the show. But if I'm looking at it as an overall project, a lot of Obi-Wan's arc and Vader is overshadowed. And at the end of the day, I feel like I would rather just watch Revenge of the Sith and roll right into A New Hope, as opposed to having to think about this show's existence, canonically speaking, because Obi-Wan's arc is not that impactful to me. Next we have Star Wars The Clone Wars, the TV show, aka the best Star Wars TV show. I have to put this in best of the best. I'm actually going to put it behind the original Star Wars, because my god, I grew up on this show. I watched, you know, seasons 1 through 5 on Cartoon Network, season 6 when it came out on Netflix, and season 7 a few years later on Disney+, actually a year after it dropped, because I had kind of fallen out and I wanted to rewatch all of Clone Wars leading up to it. But there's so much nostalgia attached to this show, and it furthers the most interesting time period aside from Order 66, which is the Clone Wars, and it's between episodes 2 and 3, and my god, are there some fantastic arcs in here, you know, with Umbara and, you know, Pong Krell and the whole 501st. And you've got Anakin slowly turning to the dark side. They explore it so much in different arcs here, especially the Mortis trilogy and all that storytelling. Filoni, you mastermind. There's so much expansive lore in the Clone Wars show, and it's just awesome to explore this prequel time period. General Grievous is expanded upon. Mace Windu is expanded upon. We get an arc where Boba is literally trying to hunt and kill Mace Windu. But above all else, the whole entire plot involving the Mandalorians and of course Darth Maul's return makes this show what it is. The final season is masterful, from the Bad Batch arc to of course the Siege of Mandalore, which is peak Star Wars content arguably. If you took the Siege of Mandalore, the final 4 episodes, and made it into a movie, it might be a top 3 Star Wars film because the Clone Wars is that special. It deserves a spot in Best of the Best. Next we have Revenge of the Sith, aka a lot of people's #1 favorite Star Wars movie of all time. It is up there for me. It's my 4th favorite Star Wars movie. It has, again, some of the best moments in the entire saga. Obi-Wan vs. Anakin, Order 66, the opening rescue scene where they go and get Palpatine and we see do it when Anakin kills Dooku. I love to see Anakin's turn to the dark side here, and I love the last hour of this movie. It's a damn great movie. But in all honesty, I think it's slightly overhyped because the first hour, it still suffers from some prequelitis with the dialogue and the slower pacing, especially Anakin not being granted the rank of Master. I was never crazy about that storyline, honestly, and the politics of the Jedi Council is really in the forefront for like the first hour. But once we hit like Order 66 onward, I think it's a perfect movie. I'm gonna go top of great, and I know this is gonna upset some of you guys, but I'm putting it at top of great. I'm not putting it in Best of the Best. Call me crazy. I'm really reserving Best of the Best for what I believe is the best of the best in this tier ranking. But Revenge of the Sith is a damn great movie. Next we have the Book of Boba Fett. Wow, was this show tough for me because I wanted to love it. I did. The first 4 episodes almost fully lost me, and then we got a Mandalorian solo episode, and then the next episode we got Cad Bane and Luke Skywalker and Ahsoka and more Mando, and it was just this overwhelming amount of Star Wars joy, and then the finale was pretty lackluster. So if I'm looking at those 2 episodes, episodes 5 and 6, those were amazing, some great Star Wars content, but then I kind of look at it as a whole and I'm like, the existence of the show was just kind of pointless. They should have just done Mando Season 3 and had Boba be a main side character in it. Because 2 of the 7 episodes are fantastic, I can't go outright bad with the Book of Boba Fett, so those moments alone put it in the meh category, but I honestly think Obi-Wan Kenobi is probably a little better than the Book of Boba Fett, so I put Boba right behind it. Next we have Star Wars Episode 9, The Rise of Skywalker. If you've been following the channel or following me for any time on social media, you'll know how I feel about this movie, and this is the worst Star Wars project of all time, in my opinion. It is disastrous. It dropped the ball completely. I don't love The Last Jedi, which we'll talk about in a second, but this just went completely off the rails. It just loses me from the first 5 minutes. Palpatine's existence in this movie baffles me. I despise a lot of the decisions this movie makes, and I have to put it in bad. Straight up, this is a terrible film. I don't enjoy it at all, and I literally was laughing out loud in the theater at some of the horrible decisions made. The Rise of Skywalker, borderline unwatchable film. Next is Rogue One, A Star Wars Story, another film that I actually find slightly overhyped. It's really cool to kind of see how they got the plans for the Death Star, but did we really need an entire movie about this group of people whose fate was sort of inevitable from the get-go? I'm not sure if it was that necessary. I've seen the movie 3 or 4 times in my life. I think that the Darth Vader scene definitely puts it, you know, at least in the good tier because that is such an impactful scene. But if you take the Darth Vader scene out, the movie is very meh. I'm gonna put it like above Bad Batch, like right here. I actually prefer Solo over Rogue One, which is probably crazy to some of you guys. I think Rogue One's a good movie. You know, there's a lot of intriguing side characters, and there are a lot of them, so they're not all fleshed out as much as they should be. But seeing, you know, the plans of the Death Star and the Darth Vader scene and how it ties right into A New Hope is pretty cool. They get some more Saw Gerrera in here, and there's interesting Star Wars moments for the whole lore and the canon, but it's just a good movie. I can't go great with Rogue One. I think it is wildly overrated. Next, we actually have Star Wars Rebels, a show that I love, and I think you guys should all give it a shot if you haven't seen it, because a lot of people dismiss this one as the kiddiest Star Wars that we have, and admittedly, Season 1 is a little more targeted to the younger audience. You can tell it's made for Disney XD at times, but Season 2 is fantastic. We see Ahsoka, Darth Vader, and Darth Maul in this show, and all of their arcs are phenomenal. They conclude so many stories here while leaving some doors open for possibly the Ahsoka show. Actually, not possibly. We all know some of these characters are going to come back around. There are moments where I teared up. I mean, it just really expands on the lore of the Jedi, especially with the character of Ezra Bridger. And we get Thrawn in this show, who is an absolute menace, one of the scariest Star Wars villains, and one of those dudes whose presence you can feel when he walks in the room and the score starts to pick up. While it's not as good as Clone Wars because I think Seasons 1 and 4 aren't as strong, Seasons 2 and 3 carry Rebels in my opinion. It does peak a little early and then kind of like trudges to the finish line as a show, but it's still great Star Wars, and I'm actually going to put it above The Phantom Menace in the great tier because Star Wars Rebels is great, the storytelling is amazing, and it's a nice time period between Episode 3 and 4, but again, it's a new group of characters. While it brings in Ahsoka and Darth Maul and Darth Vader, it's focused on an entirely new group of characters, and they feel like, you know, a Guardians of the Galaxy-esque family where you can really get on board with them. and just resonate with these characters. Next, we have Return of the Jedi, another criminally underrated and slept on Star Wars movie. I feel like it kind of gets dismissed because, oh, it's the worst of the 3 originals, which I think it is, but that's not at all a shot at the movie because the first 2 Star Wars films are some of the best of all time. Return of the Jedi is a fantastic conclusion to the original trilogy. We get the Luke v. Vader throne room scene where Luke's just wailing on him. Vader ends up killing Palpatine. We get a full-on redemption arc for Vader. That alone is what sets this movie apart. It is a perfect conclusion for all these characters. The final moments where Luke looks out and he sees Anakin, Yoda, and Obi-Wan as Force ghosts, and he has a smile on his face. It never fails to put a smile on my face. It feels like someone's giving me a big old hug and warming my heart, seeing our crew all happy together celebrating on Endor. We get another run on the Death Star, which is epic. I dig the Ewoks. I don't get the hate for them, and I never will. And of course, the whole opening on Jabba's palace is an interesting scene. Is it a little bit long? Maybe. But I don't give a damn because Luke gets to kick ass. He fights the Rancor. We get Han back in action. And arguably the best scene in this entire movie, when Luke is with Yoda, Yoda ends up passing. He says, "There is another Skywalker." It's got to go in best of the best, right behind the original. It's better than Clone Wars in my opinion because I would watch the original trilogy on a loop growing up, and this movie is so slept on, guys. I adore it. Next, we have The Force Awakens, the first sequel film, and arguably my most anticipated movie of all time. I remember when I was growing up and after, you know, Revenge of the Sith came out, I was like, do you think we'll ever see episode 7? And everyone was like, no shot. And then the whole Disney thing happened where they acquired Lucasfilm, and little did we know it got announced. Look, I don't love the sequel trilogy, but I still have fond memories of this film. I think that it is a very well-contained story. I like Rey a lot in this movie. The moment where she forces the lightsaber into her hand and ignites it still gives me chills to this day, and I think that it has really great moments for Star Wars, and because of that, I do have to put it in the great tier. I'm actually going to put it right behind The Phantom Menace at this current moment in time. Again, I'm probably going to rewatch all the Star Wars movies at some point this year, but I really think The Force Awakens is a great Star Wars film. Kylo and the intrigue surrounding him early on is great. You don't know much about Snoke here. They kind of set up Finn and do the little fake out with Rey, and I really like the way they took it. Chewie, we're home, hits different. Han dies, and I'm still salty about it. Fun fact, I was actually spoiled for that before the movie, which pissed me off, but hey, it is what it is. And you've got that awesome cliffhanger moment with Luke at the very end, and it's like, if I just cut it off there and I don't think about The Last Jedi, this isn't half bad. It's also a movie I saw 3 times in theaters, which was like pretty big deal in 2015, so gotta love The Force Awakens. Next is The Empire Strikes Back, a movie that some would call the best Star Wars film of all time and one of the best films of all time. I'm gonna go ahead and put this in best of the best, right behind the original Star Wars. I think Empire is phenomenal. It's got the greatest twist in movie history, arguably. Seeing Luke training with Yoda is some of the most incredible Star Wars content. It's arguably the most quotable Star Wars movie. Yoda's theme, the entire score by John Williams, is masterful here, especially a slept-on track, which is the asteroid field. That one. Han and Leia's relationship, the I love you, I know moment. I could go on and on. Empire Strikes Back is a perfect movie. It's the darkest movie in this trilogy. It feels like all hope is lost, but at the very end, there's a slight glimmer of hope as Luke is still around. So next is the Clone Wars micro series, which is not canon, but it was on Cartoon Network in like the early 2000s. I have volume 1 and 2 on DVD, and I love a lot of aspects about this, especially when Anakin fights Ventress in volume 1, and he's lashing out on her, and you can see that darkness inside of him. Grievous is a menace in this, the way that he just takes out clones and Jedi like they're chump change. Mace Windu goes ham in this. I'm telling you, he takes out thousands of droids in this one episode. I'm gonna put it at the top of good, honestly, because I think that it is really good Star Wars. Again, I haven't seen it in years, but there are such standout moments. Seeing the different clones in action here was really cool as well, and it just has a lot of moments to love. I need to rewatch it soon, and this is basically just me trying to plug it, be like, hey, I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube at least, so you guys can look up the Clone Wars micro series. It's on Disney+. Really good Star Wars storytelling. Next is The Last Jedi, the most divisive movie of all time, arguably. I'm not a fan of this one. I end up being so torn after I first saw it that I took a notepad to my screening the next morning. I went Saturday and Sunday, and I wrote down everything to try and kind of really figure out how I felt about this. And I don't love a lot of decisions this makes. One key thing that feels off from the start is the humor. It's trying to integrate the MCU humor in Star Wars, which just falls flat. The whole 30-minute Canto Bight sequence is laughably bad, and it's just unnecessary. Finn was gonna have a heroic sacrificial moment, and he ends up being saved by Rose, which kind of took away from a moment that would have been really impactful. It just doesn't do it for me. Visually, it might be the best looking Star Wars movie. I don't love what they do with Luke's character here. I think the throne room scene has its cool moments, but as an overall movie, I think it's almost disastrous. It kind of derailed the whole sequel trilogy's vision, and it's one Star Wars movie that I never really want to go back and rewatch, unfortunately. I think it's pretty bad, guys, and I do have to put it there. I think it's better than The Rise of Skywalker. but I think The Last Jedi is a pretty big stinker, honestly. But let me know what you guys think of this movie down below. I know it's super divisive. Next is the Clone Wars movie, which kind of kickstarted the whole entire show. It's basically a few episodes of the Clone Wars put into one. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, this movie's bad. And a lot of the early Clone Wars episodes are kind of throwaway arcs, but there's literally a plot of this movie where they're trying to find a baby Hutt. It just doesn't work out. All it did was give us the Clone Wars show, which I'm very grateful for, but the movie is not very rewatchable. I've seen it a few times in my life, and it's pretty bad. If I was given the option, I would probably watch it over these two movies because I think they're abysmal films. Anything in the bad tier is the worst Star Wars that exists. And last but not least is Attack of the Clones, another movie that I think gets a lot of hate. I think it's the worst prequel with ease, and I'm comfortable saying that, but it has the Battle of Geonosis, the whole Dooku showdown at the very end, and a lot of Detective Obi-Wan, where he's going to find out more about Kamino, the Clone Army, and Jango. So there's a lot of really cool concepts here. It furthers Anakin's descent into the darkness. One of my favorite scenes is when he's riding the speeder through the desert, and he ends up killing all the Tusken Raiders while he finds out his mother dies. So there are fantastic moments like that, but I don't love this movie, especially the older I get, the more I kind of can see the flaws. It's cheesy as hell with the writing, and a lot of the dialogue is cringe and forced. And if I'm being honest with you guys, this is the prequel that I skip when I rewatch a lot of times. I think it has great moments, but it's just a mad movie. Again, no hate, I still love the prequels, but I'm gonna put it right here above the Obi-Wan Kenobi show because I really do enjoy Attack of the Clones. But guys, that is my tier list ranking of all the Star Wars projects that I have seen. What is your ranking? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, hit that notification bell, because I love doing tier list rankings like this one. I have a ton of content coming very soon, from Thor Love and Thunder and Marvel content to Stranger Things 4 Volume 2 content, so stay tuned for that. You guys have been killing it with the support lately. It means the absolute world. Can't wait to keep making more content and see what the future holds for me. But thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know your ranking of all these projects down below. And until next time, I'll see you guys later.